Okay, this is DeleawareLiberal here with Chris Coons running for U.S. Senate. Chris, the first question is there's been a huge influx of money from out of state, which has allowed Christine O'Donnell to blanket the airwaves with negative ads. What effect has this had on the way you've conducted your campaign?
Well, I've tried very hard to stay focused on the issues that really matter to working families and to Delawareans. Up and down the state, folks have asked me, what are you going to do to get us back to work? What are your ideas? What's your experience? How would you fix what's broken in Washington? And I've tried to stay focused on that and to run a positive campaign, an issues-based campaign. Of course, I'm concerned about the amount of outside money that's come in. My opponent has outraised me over the internet 2-to-1 since the primary. She's raised millions of dollars, and according, I think, to her FEC report, 98% of it was from outside the state and in unreportable amounts. I think the bigger issue for us as a country for the long term is the idea that after Citizens United, we're allowing tens of millions of dollars in corporate contributions to go in to affect campaigns. Michael Bennett from Colorado is someone I know from school, and he's facing just a punishing barrage of negative ads financed in large part by these sort of undisclosed outside groups. And I really think that every campaign contribution ought to be disclosed. The average citizen ought to be able to look them up and hold candidates accountable for the folks who are contributing to them, and just understand more about sort of where they're coming from and who's supporting them. So I'm concerned about the outside contributions. It hasn't changed my focus. I don't think the overall tone of the campaign for my opponent, it hasn't been very positive. I've tried to stay focused on the positive and to lay out a constructive vision for the state.
Great. You have a question?
Okay. My question is about in Washington right now. There's always talk about bipartisanship, but
Yep.
it's not very bipartisan right now.
It's been very tough the last 2 years.
And it's going to get worse. I think Mitch McConnell said his #1 job is making sure that Barack Obama does not get reelected. So
it's not very encouraging, is it?
No. And so, my question is about what kind of things can you do in a situation like that, and specifically about reforming the filibuster.
Right.
And I know Barack Obama came out last night for filibuster reform. So just your comments on filibuster reform and the atmosphere, the partisan atmosphere.
Two things, if I could. I have been asked by Delawareans up and down the state, all 3 counties, all political backgrounds, about what are you going to do to bridge the partisan divide. That is something I think Delawareans are very concerned about, because they recognize that without some ability to work together, we'll spend the next 2 years, those who are in the Senate the next 2 years, just simply squabbling over who gets elected president in 2012 and scoring points both ways. I do think that there's a number of changes to the rules that would make sense. The idea of secret holds, for example, might have made sense when senators had to travel by horse and buggy and could be out of town when critical votes were cast, which is what I'm told is sort of why there's a secret hold rule. There's a rule in the Senate that allows any senator to hold any bill or any nomination without it being reported who's doing it, for how long, or for what reasons. I think we should end that. I think there's a number of different proposals for how cloture is invoked, for how filibusters are conducted, that I will seriously consider. I don't think the Constitution contemplated that 40 members of the Senate would be able, 41, forgive me, would be able to hold up legislation indefinitely. There has been more abuse of the filibuster in the last year than in the previous decade. And I am mindful of the fact that when Democrats were in the minority in the early years of the second Bush administration, we really dearly held on to the protections that the filibuster provides to prevent very extreme judges from going on courts. But we've seen far more abuse of those rules in the last 18 months than I think ever happened under the Bush administration. And it's just getting worse. So I'll support changes in terms of rules on nominations, on secret holds, and we'll seriously consider them in the case of filibusters. There's one proposal that allows for a gradually reducing number of votes required to achieve cloture that I think may be a reasonable compromise. I'm also going to make real efforts to try and reach across the aisle and see if there are members of the other caucus that are more motivated by concern about people being out of work and losing their homes than they are about Mitch McConnell and his agenda. And I'll give it my best shot. I will. There will be people there who are also brand new, who are also coming from states that have significant economic problems. And if I'm elected on Tuesday, I'll do my best to contribute to a positive climate. I also know that's not going to be easy.